Welcome to another Game One Sports production. My name is Matthew Brice, here for a special opportunity to speak with the Richardson ISD legend, Coach Mark Malcolm. Coach Malcolm, how are we doing this morning?
Man, I'm doing great. Thank y'all so much for having me.
Basically, we're going to have a state of the union when it comes to high school football. Yeah. Not only in the area, but if we can, we want to get statewide with this because there is a big season coming up. Realignment just happened. We had some teams move up. We had some teams move down. So we're going to try to get into all of that. We might even try to make some predictions here, if that's okay with him.
Absolutely.
So let's get to it. Coach Malcolm, how long did you coach?
I retired in May after 45 years of coaching football in Texas and being a classroom teacher through all but the last 2 years of that.
Beautiful. So where all did you coach?
I started out at Apollo Junior High as a 7th grade assistant, eventually was the head coach there for 16 years. So I was at the school 26 years. I was an assistant at Burtner for 2 years during, luckily, the probably the greatest period of their prosperity where we went 3 rounds deep in the playoffs. Nothing to do with me. We had great players, and our coach, Jim Ledford, is exceptional, also just a legendary guy. Was invited by Randy Robertson to come to Pierce when he came here as the head coach. I spent 7 years here, and I started as the special teams coordinator, became the co-offensive coordinator with Stephen Anthony, who's the OC at Pierce now, and became the assistant head coach. And after 35 total years, got an opportunity to go to the Shelton School, a private school in Dallas, and spent 8 years there, the last 5 as the head coach. I mean, I'm proud to say that that we had probably the greatest period of their success. I mean, their best season ever. We were 9-2 and went to the second round in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And thought I was ready to retire, and got a phone call from Doug Planey at North Junior High, where I went to school, and said, hey, come over and coach here for a couple of years. I mean, I have a young staff. They're great. And, it's one of the best things I've ever done was to go back and coach junior high athletes. It was a great, great experience. So all in all, 45 years.
So the junior high experience, if I'm correct, that's when you're really getting them ready, and that's when that connection with the junior high and the high school is supposed to start.
Yes.
Because in my honest opinion, from what I've seen, you cannot have a successful high school program if you do not have a relationship with the junior high, with your feeder programs.
I totally agree. Yes.
Now, there's been a couple of moments, there's been a time or two where I could think where a coach did not know what he was getting because he didn't really have a feeder system, or the feeder system wasn't too strong, or
right.
And one that comes to mind, when Coach Reginald Samples, the legendary Reginald Samples, who is now at Duncanville, when he was over at Skyline, he didn't always know what he was getting.
No, because their kids were not locked in to a particular high school. So, I think Coach Samples had to sort people out as they came, but also being one of the very best who's ever done it, people are attracted to come to him.
Absolutely.
And for good reason. He not only, I think, is a great X's and O's guy, but his relationship with his kids is what draws people to him. He takes care of them and makes sure they're good men.
And for those that don't know, take a look at what Reginald Samples did from his time at Lincoln.
Yes, yeah.
Starting at Lincoln, he helped turn Lincoln around. I think Lincoln won one game the year before he showed up. Yeah. And his first year there, they won 2 playoff games. And we know what he's done in Duncanville lately. So the man he's always been great. He has always been fantastic.
He's exceptional.
And as Coach Malcolm pointed out, relationships are important.
Yes.
People come to him because they're attracted to him. They're attracted to him because he is a great man. Now, those 2 years at Berkeley, I want to talk about that. Jim Ledford, I'm assuming that's during the time where you had Justin Johnson and his brother Josh Johnson over there in that
both of them had
offense.
played for me at Apollo, yes. But yes.
So that time, how many playoff wins had Berkner had experienced going into those years with the Johnsons?
Well, prior to Justin going there, they had won one playoff game. Coach Doobie's second year, they upset Kimball in the Cotton Bowl, and I was lucky to be at that game. So it was a great win over a very good Kimball team. We had a sophomore kicker kick a field goal to win that ball game. But long period of you're just not quite getting there to the playoffs, and then Jim built on his. We went to the playoffs, lost to Carter at Texas Stadium. It's the film that's in the movie Friday Night Lights. When you see Carter playing, they're beating us, and they were really, really good. They were 300 plus up front, and not fat guys that were getting downfield and blocking us. I mean, they were really, really good. In fact, we scored our one touchdown was a throw-up ball to Akib to leave in the back corner of the end zone. He used his 42-inch vertical to go up and get it. But Jim built on that. So when he got Justin, his first year in the playoffs, we beat Skyline when Q Britton was there. Q's last year, I think, to coach. Mm-hmm. Lost the next week to the state champion Tyler Lee at our place. We flipped home and home with them. So fortunately, after they beat us, we didn't have to drive back from Tyler at least. But then when this catches full on, Justin's junior year, we're 12-0 and lose to A&M Consolidated in the Cotton Bowl. In the 12th game, Justin broke his jaw against Saxe. He got a helmet under the chin in the third quarter and broke his jaw in 3 places. And obviously Consolidated was great, but I believe that we would have beaten them with him. I don't think there's anybody that we couldn't beat with Justin Johnson at quarterback. And so we lost to Consolidated. Played a good game without him, but, he was the wheel. And then the next year, he was hurt off and on, and this Quincy Thomas quarterback some, but we went 3 rounds deep again and actually beat South Garland when they had Nick, is it Flores?
Nick Florence.
Florence, great quarterback. And fortunately, he didn't really heat up till the second half, but you could see what he could do. And then we beat Carter at Texas Stadium, kicked a field goal late to beat them, and lost to Klein Oak in Waco in the third round. And we just didn't play well. I mean, they were really good, obviously. You get that far in the playoffs, everybody's good. But we turned the ball over too many times to beat them. So Jim is by far the playoff leader in the history of Bertner football. And Bertner's been blessed. I mean, I compiled a book at one time, The History of Bertner Football, that had every game in it. And I have been lucky to personally know every coach in their history, every head coach in their history, and they've just had a chain of exceptional men, right down to Trey, who is, I've known since he was a young man and is just exceptional.
Awesome. Now, with Coach Ledford really getting Berkner going at that time, that was on the tail end. That was right on the tail end when Lake Highlands has started to slow down. Yeah. Lake Highlands. Yes. Lake Highlands had a wonderful run.
Whew. Yes.
And we're talking about another triple option team, more wishbone.
Yes. True bone, yes.
Right. They were the true wishbone team where Berkner was flex bone.
Right.
Double wing.
Yeah, we motioned a lot to that, but yes, no, they started out as a true wishbone team with a tight and a split. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And then y'all came with the flex bone and the double wing.
Yeah.
And y'all kept the tradition going over at Wildcat Ram Stadium because it was called the Boneyard.
Right.
So y'all kept that tradition going.
Yes.
Y'all kept that name going when Berkner got going. And Coach Johnson, Justin Johnson, he's Coach Johnson now.
Yeah.
And he's at Texas Tech, and he's doing a wonderful job.
He is, I think, and he'd be embarrassed for me to say this, but he's in line to be a head coach at the Division I level in the next few years. He's as good as there get. I mean, again, I've known him since he was 12-year-old sixth grader that came to our first meeting at Apollo, and he's been a winner and a powerhouse since the day I met him. So,
love it.
And it's hard to imagine much more of a winner as a player and a leader than he was for us in that period.
Yeah, because he was a big part of turning Berkner around.
Oh, yes.
He was one of the pioneers. He was one of the ones that laid the foundation and jump-started everything. And, of course, his little brother Josh, he was right there with him.
Yeah.
You know, he was one of the halfbacks, fullbacks in that flex bone offense he's also now Coach Johnson down at Trinity Valley, I believe.
I just texted with Josh last week, as a matter of fact. And,
awesome.
And, yeah, what an exceptional athlete. I mean, I think this is just how the breaks work, but both of those guys, but particularly Josh, could have easily played in the NFL. They had that kind of talent. I mean, I saw him play for Trinity Valley in the playoffs, I think against Navarro, and those guys in that league, they're NFL quality players, all of them.
Now Navarro, they come in. That's that junior college league with Kilgore.
Yes.
You got Blinn in there too, right?
Yes.
Which we know what Cam Newton did when he was down there for 1 year. He was breaking all kinds of records.
Yes.
So that's a good for the young men that may not have a Power 5 offer right away. And we need you to understand and hear this. There is nothing wrong with going to that JUCO route.
Oh no. It opens doors for people, and I would say further, because you deal with young men, they all think they're about to go play for Alabama, they're going to play for Michigan.
Right.
I want to tell them, if you play college sports, I don't care where it is, NAIA on up, you've done something that the vast majority of people are not going to get to do. I mean, do it and enjoy your experience and get something good out of it. I mean, I'm just a believer that it's the number of people that get to that level at any college level is so small, and you're one of those people. Take full advantage of it.
It's a privilege and a blessing to do so.
Amen.
Yes, sir. So the JUCO route, not just Cam Newton, but future Hall of Famer, in my opinion, Corey Dillon.
Yes.
He was the junior college route before he played at the University of Washington, and we know what he was as well. So now we're going to get into some more high school football talk. Now, Richardson ISD, you got Berkner, you got Lake Highlands, you have Richardson High, you have J.J. Pierce. What do you expect from them this year?
Well, interestingly, all of them have coaches who are within their first 4 years as the head coach at those places. I think all of them have made huge gains. I mean, obviously I've met all of them. 3 of them are pretty close friends, and I just haven't had enough chance to get to know Coach Holloway as well, but I'm going to, because he's an impressive guy. I think all 4 of those programs are pointed up, and I think all of them will be competitive for a playoff spot. I think you can depend on my friend Brandon Hickman at Jesuit to do very well this year. I mean, there are people that are picking them to make it, 4 rounds deep. I wouldn't be surprised at that. Brandon is one of the best offensive coaches in the state, for sure. But I think all 4 of the RISD high schools are pointed in the right direction. I can't wait to see those games. I mean, I'm being a man of leisure now. I can circle those games on my calendar and make sure I get to go see them.
100%. Now, Coach Holloway, that's the head coach over at Richardson
High. Yes, sir.
And I know he was on the Berkner staff not too long ago. That's correct.
He was Trey's OC and was exceptional. And when I have met him, I mean, the guy's a powerhouse of enthusiasm. I mean, he's probably never met a stranger. So, I look forward to developing a relationship with him, because he just has the goods. I like to be around high wattage people.
And an infectious attitude like that from a coach, that is a way to keep your players.
Amen.
And it's a way to bring in more.
Yes.
Because who doesn't want to play for a guy like that?
Right. And you're modeling that for your coaching staff too. I mean, when the head guy is that guy, it pushes everybody else to coach at a high level all the time and coach with energy, but it causes them to want to be relational. And I mean, you've said it several times, but I don't think there's a more important aspect of building a program than being relational with young people. I mean, if you ask me the single thing that I'm most proud of in my career is that, that we had good relationships with our kids. I mean, I'm still close to a lot of them, and that doesn't mean we weren't hard on them. And there were probably days when they went home cursing me, but because we were tough and had high standards. But in the long run, they knew we cared about them, or they wouldn't still care about us. I mean, that makes all the difference.
Absolutely. So, and the thing about that is because the kids, they spend 8 hours at school.
Mm-hmm.
They are with the teachers and the coaches for 8 hours.
Yes.
That's more than the time that they spend at home with their mom and their dad and their sisters and brothers.
Yes.
Initially, you become daddy. And a lot of people don't realize or they don't understand the correlation. But you and your other coaches, y'all become the fathers of these young men. And a great man by the name of Coach Rickland Holmes, John Tyler alumni, now coaching over at Chisholm Trail. I remember him saying 1 year before practices start, if all I'm teaching you is X's and O's, I have failed. I have not done my job.
That's well said.
And that is something that a lot of people that, yes, winning is important. And we get it. We all want to win. But at the same time, we have to teach the young men about values. We have to teach the young men how to be men, how to grow from boys to men. Because going from middle school to high school is an important transition.
Yeah.
And then going from high school to college is another important transition. Because that's when you're really starting to transition into manhood. So what you learn and what you soaked up at the middle school and the high school levels, that becomes important. And it becomes important not just on the field, but more importantly, outside of sports, off of the field.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're a man after my own heart. This is absolutely what we believe. I mean, if you looked at the letter I sent to parents every year, basically it ended with something very similar to that. I said, if all we did was make your kid a better football player, then I'm going to feel like I failed in my job. And there's more to it than that. So that's awesome.
And one thing about Rickland Holmes is that a lot of his young men, quite a few of his young men, they're trying to kick us out? Okay. One thing I've noticed about Rickland Holmes in particular the last month or so is that there's been a few of his young men that played for him at John Tyler. A couple of them have joined his staff over at Chisholm Trail now. Some of them just graduated high school like within the last 6 to 8 years.
Yeah.
So when they come back and say, Coach, can I work for you?
Yeah.
Is that something that would warm your heart?
Oh, my goodness, yeah. I mean, I've been lucky to have a couple of situations where I had former players on our staff, and they fit right into the system because they understand what you're trying to do, how to treat people, the level of preparation that we expect. I mean, like all people that are artistically good, coaching well probably looks effortless, but it was hours of preparation that those guys spent so that they know exactly what they're trying to accomplish when they get on the field. So there's no wasted minutes. I mean, that's just one of those truisms. The only thing you have in common with all your opponents is time, and how you use that and manage it is going to make a huge difference in whether you win or not.
And a lot of long days and long nights.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Because as you said before, when you get 3 rounds deep into the postseason, that's usually Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And there's an old saying around here, there are no turkeys left when it comes to Thanksgiving football.
Yes.
If you are practicing on Thanksgiving, you're doing it right.
Yeah. I've gotten to do that several times, and that is an exceptional milestone frequently we had early morning practice on Thanksgiving Day and got the kids out so that they can do what they're going to do. But no, you realize only the cream of the crop is left in the state by then. So no, that's an exceptional experience.
Yeah, because then you're 3 weeks out from state.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your regional finals are usually the next weekend after that. So, yes, sir. Which brings me to this. 6A D1 championship. I know it's early. I know we haven't even had scrimmages yet. We know who was there the last 5 or 6 years. Duncanville.
Yeah.
Is anyone going to dethrone them this year?
Wow. And, of course, I flip through my Dave Campbell's as soon as I get it, but until somebody can regularly beat them, I'm going to keep saying they're the best. And the good teams, Galena Park, DeSoto, they hadn't forgot how to coach football. They're going to be very good. I think our friends at Denton Geyer will be back in that equation. They lost to Duncanville, I guess, in the semifinals 2 years ago. So the number of people, the South Lake program, and you may get to this later, I'm fascinated to see what Todd Dodge is going to do at Lovejoy. I mean, it's a great program with great facilities, and again, he's as good as there is. So that's going to be fascinating. How do they figure in that picture? But my money's on Coach Samples until somebody shows that they can beat them.
Until someone proves you wrong.
Absolutely.
Which they did have one loss a year ago. There's been some discussion about why Duncanville may have lost to DeSoto. I don't know the full details because I was not there.
No, and I didn't get to go to the game, so
would have loved to. But yeah. DeSoto they played a good game that day, and
I feel like we're on a submarine. We're being depth charged or something here.
We saw DeSoto run the gauntlet and run roughshod over everyone in the D2 bracket.
Yep.
I think South Lake Carroll gave them their toughest game.
Yeah.
And I think that was a 7 or 8 point game when it was all said and done.
Yeah.
But they ran roughshod over everyone all the way to the championship. And now, of course, DeSoto, Duncanville in the same district.
Yeah.
With a very tough Cedar Hill team.
Right.
That you cannot go to sleep on. Coach Nick Ward has done a great job over there.
Right.
Do we see DeSoto dethroned in the D2 bracket?
Wow. Again, that's going to be tough. And the thing that all those people have in common is that, you've been around great programs at a certain point when you get the flywheel turning, where you have a program, we're going to do this and then do this, and we have a mechanism in place for that. But the biggest thing is that the kids that come into your program believe that they're going to win just because they're there. They're going to push themselves to fit into the mold that you need. So all of those programs can depend on winning. They're not worried about whether they're going to make the playoffs or not. Those guys all have a state title game penciled in on their board, and until something drastic happens to change that, school boundaries change drastically, so you lose players, and some of them could even overcome that. You have a world-famous coach that leaves, and that changes the equation some. Not necessarily. It depends on who comes in there and how well they are able to adapt to how things have been. So, man, I would not – all those big-name schools, and obviously Galena Park's always in this conversation. I've never met their head coach. Got to meet the DC several years ago in San Antonio, and the guy was brilliant. He even may be a head coach by now. Katy schools, because Katy High School has the same, that long history of being successful and making state finals. Those things just don't change. The good guys stay good. I've always been interested in Coach Allen at Highland Park and the fact that they have been 6A and dropped back to 5A. They've won state championships in 5A, but he goes to the playoffs in 6A. People that don't like him will always say, they won't like this being in 6A. Well, what's going to happen is you're not going to like playing them because they're still really good. His program is his program. He wouldn't care what level they're playing. They're going to be successful because they have all those pieces in place.
And for the record, Highland Park did go 3 rounds deep in the 6A playoffs.
Absolutely,
a year ago.
they did. Yes. Well, after playing a tough game with McKinney,
yes,
Marcus played for me at Apollo.
Okay.
So, I'm glued to that game, and both those guys are my friends. So, I couldn't root one way or the other, but it was a great football game. And then HB advanced 2 more rounds. So, no, I would never bet against Coach Allen. You talk about somebody that knows exactly what he's trying to accomplish, that's your guy.
Coach Allen has seen it all, from coaching at Highland Park and coaching at Abilene Cooper before that.
Yeah.
Coaching the great Dominic Rhodes. And
Yes.
I want to say Coach Allen he played for Gordon Wood at Brownwood, correct?
I think he followed Coach Wood at Brownwood. I think he played for Abilene Cooper on the team that had Jack Mildren and lost to Reagan in the state final. Check me on that, but it's a famous game because Reagan stopped Jack Mildren, who becomes a Oklahoma star and eventually a U.S. representative, I think, from Oklahoma. But they stopped Mildren on the last play of the game from like the 1 yard line, and I've met guys that played on both sides in that game.
Okay.
I've friends in Austin who have reached out and worked with the Reagan program. And a couple of those guys played in that game, and they always tell me that it wasn't close, that they easily had him stopped. But I saw Mildren play in high school, actually against Richardson High in the quarterfinals in the Cotton Bowl. And what I really remember about it is it was as cold as it could be at the game, and Richardson was really good, and that Cooper team just blew them off the field. They were that good. Jack Mildren is one of the best high school athletes I've ever seen. So I believe that that's right. So Coach Allen's been around winning and producing out. Imagine following Gordon Wood somewhere. I mean, there are a lot of people would run away from that and I was really blessed. I got to be around Coach Wood several times where it was just me and him just sitting there talking. And really it was him talking because I was smart enough to just keep my mouth shut and listen to him, because just knowledge and philosophy are pouring out of him. But imagine following a legend like that and then winning there. That's Coach Allen. He's not scared of any challenge.
Now, you mentioned when we were talking McKinney Highland Park, Marcus, that is head coach Marcus Shavers, who is now over at North Forney.
Yeah.
A program that is on the verge, in my opinion, of starting to getting their feet on the ground.
I agree.
And getting off and running.
Yes.
Their new rival, only a few years old, Forney High, is coming up to Class 6A. North Forney, and Longview in the same district with Rockwall and Rockwall Heath.
Wow. I did not realize that. I'm sure none of those coaches are that excited about being packed with all the – they're not going to say that publicly, but you're thinking, wow, okay. Every game's a game when you're playing in that level. Wow, that's some district. And I texted with Marcus earlier about something else, but I said, well, however I have to work it out, I'll make sure I get to a game, because he is a brilliant coach.
Yeah, he did a great job over at Lubbock Estacado.
Yes.
Then he came home, went over to McKinney High, turned McKinney around, and had McKinney playing their best football in years.
Yes.
And now he's moved over to North Forney, which, I think North Forney is ready to get going.
I agree. That was a great hire. Of course, the guy that left, I think left to be maybe AD head coach somewhere else. So, I mean, it was an opportunity for him, but he had already loaded this up so that Marcus walks into a job where, he can put his touch on it, but they're already pretty good. And, man, I got money on him. He's all the things we were talking about personality and being relational. Marcus is exceptional at all those things.
Well, I know they start the season on August 29th. They play Dallas Skyline at Forrester. That's a Thursday night game. And they want to prove to people, hey, don't forget about us. I think that's a great game for both teams, both North Forney and Skyline, to start the year, to jumpstart and get both of them going and getting ready for district, because both of them are in tough districts. Of course, Skyline, they got to deal with that bunch over in the southern sector.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I mean, this is something else we didn't talk about, but I look at the good programs that schedule people like that early because they know they want to have that as a preparation for playoff experience. They want their guys to have faced somebody like that right at the very beginning because it's an eye-opener. And I think at least when you get to that flywheel place in your program when you know you're going to be good, I think that's the way to go. Because now your kids get to the playoffs, they're not wide-eyed. And I do remember the first time that we walked into Texas Stadium at Bertner, and Carter's played there how many times, a million times, and they've been successful. And this is Alan Wilson, who I think is one of the best coaches ever. But our guys are all wide-eyed. And we're walking in, we're all looking around, and, this is Texas Stadium, and we're dressing in the Cowboys locker room and all that. For Carter, this was another work day. And it showed in the game. I mean, first of all, they were probably just a little better than us. I mean, it was a great moment in Bertner history, but they had a better team. But that thing where it's new to you, it's hard to get to the playoffs the first time and advance several. People do it, but usually you take one step at a time. Mm-hmm. So, as you say, playing games like that is you getting past that. I mean, so now when you go your first round of the playoffs, this is not anything new to y'all. We're going to dress like we did. We're going to work out like we did. All the things that we did for that other ball game, we're going to do this time. And your kids are confident. They know exactly what that's going to be like.
Which brings us to this part of this discussion. A 6A D1 semifinalist a year ago, the North Crowley Panthers. Coach Ray Gates has gotten the Panthers going. They have a lot coming back this year. How far are we going this year with North Crowley?
I didn't look at their returners, but my memory is that a lot of their starters are back. And again, when you see people at the outset of making that jump, that was always a great basketball school. I mean, North Crowley had, I want to say they had a period where they had won like 70 or 80 home basketball games in a row. But clearly they have athletes. And this is the guy that's put it together where they're going to be successful. So, that's it. When you're putting that on your board at the beginning of the game, semifinals are better. Not many people are getting to that level, but they certainly have the talent level and obviously the coaching to get there. So that'd be interesting to see. The state is just so packed with that. Just North Texas is packed with so much football talent. I mean, this is why coaches are all over this place recruiting, every year. I mean, you look up and, I was lucky here when I had Corey Coleman here, we'd look up at when Scott Frost was the OC at Oregon, he's on our practice field,
Wow.
because they're recruiting this area for athletes, and Corey was exceptional. I mean, but that's not happening everywhere.
Corey was a first-round draft pick of the Cleveland Browns.
Yes, 15, I think. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Had a great career at Baylor down there in that offense, which we know put up record-breaking numbers.
Yeah, he's a Bolitnikoff winner as a junior.
Sir.
Yeah.
So North Crowley returning Chris Jimerson at quarterback, a UNT commit, and a host of offensive linemen. Probably one of the bigger offensive lines in the state, as people are going to find out this year. When it comes to size and ability, they could be in that conversation. With what we will see at Cedar Hill in their offensive line, or even the Duncanville and the DeSoto's, who DeSoto is actually playing with the 5A enrollment. They elected to stay up in 6A. Oh,
to stay up. I did not realize that. But,
yes, sir.
But, I mean, I think that's a good decision for them. And it's not like we don't think they can be competitive. They can win the state title.
They've proven that.
Yeah. Wow.
And now we get into Class 5A. As we know, Highland Park dropped down. But they're joining a district with Red Oak, Midlothian High, and Tyler High, which Tyler is supposed to be bringing back quite a few this year as well.
Really?
And they're supposed to be loaded. The people in East Texas, they're proud of what they're putting on the field this year.
Yeah.
Now, that district, with Highland Park even dropping down, are we predicting them to win it? Or will Red Oak have something to say about that?
Well, you can remember times when Red Oak has had exceptional athletes, had speed in the past, but again, I would never bet against Randy Allen. I mean, their preparation is exceptional. They've just done it so many times. I mean, I've got to believe that he has them in line to do that, barring all the things that coaches can't control, injury or something like that. I mean, I was looking at UT lost their starting back to a knee injury yesterday in practice, and I thought, well, they've got other backs, but they don't have another starting back. I mean, so assuming that Randy doesn't deal with that stuff, I would still pick them to win. And he'll probably hate me for saying that because he'd probably rather be the underdog. But it's hard to be the underdog when you're at HP. And he's built that program to the point where people assume they're going to win.
Yeah, because believe it or not, people do circle Highland Park on their schedule.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that's a playoff game for everybody. Well, again, when I was at Pierce, and they were in our district, I mean, those are games that our student body went crazy about them. I got coach to institute this at one time. We played bagpipe music on our practice field, on the B field, every day at practice. We actually had a lady from the neighborhood come and ask us to turn it down at least. But 2 times we played at HP down 7 the last possession of the game, when this was before they lost to Pulaski, and they had like a 60 or 70 game home win record. So we had the opportunity twice to drive and score and tie, and they stopped us both times. So we threw a pick on one of them and got stopped on 4th down on the other one. But that's a playoff experience for us. I mean, going to their place where they've won so much and playing a team of that quality. So Highland Park, DeSoto, Duncanville, they don't sneak up on anybody. You've planned for that game. From right now, coaches are already game planning those games for October because they know they have to be ready.
Coach Malcolm, unfortunately, we got to wrap it up. And we still have plenty more to talk about.
My goodness.
Coach Malcolm, this was a wonderful conversation. It was a pleasure, and I want to thank you for sitting down with us.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a joy.
On behalf of Game On Sports, my name is Matthew Brice. Game on.